So this is the Hasbro 2008 release Clone Trooper voice changer helmet. Now several versions of this helmet were done. You can get ones for Captain Rex and a couple of different paint jobs for different clone troopers, but this is just the original white one. This is kind of like, I guess, the closest you could get to what the Black Series helmets are back in the day. These helmets are come in several pieces you clip together. And they're mainly made for kids, which is why it's got the massive visor on the front, because kids might run into walls if they have a helmet with limited vision on their head. But T-visors, even when they're slim, you can actually see quite a lot out of, because I tried on my friend's episode 3 clone helmet, and they've got way more vision than you have in a Stormtrooper helmet, which is weird to me. So as I said, this is actually a voice changer helmet, so if I turn it to the side here, as you can see there are two buttons which actually have pre-recorded dialogue on, and this button here is to turn on the voice changer that's in the front of the helmet. Now the actual voice changer bit itself doesn't work very well, I've tried, but the pre-recorded lines work wonderfully, and there's a little switch on the side, so if I just turn that on.
Gunships are holding at a safe distance. I've got a bad feeling about this, sir. I'm on my way.
But as you can see, there is a lot of lines from where all the helmet joins are that we got to fill in, and we got to make it look nice and neat. And I have decided I do actually want to keep these pre-recorded lines in, because it'd be pretty cool for trooping, because I don't sound anything like a clone trooper, so just being able to quickly press my helmet and
We're taking heavy fire.
something like that come out. And the speaker is actually fairly half decent, that comes out the top here. So I've already had a little quick play about with it to make sure that I can actually keep the speaker in and fill all this in as well, because the battery compartment for this speaker and voice changer stuff is hidden under this part of the fin here. And so if I fill all this in, I would not be able to get to the battery compartment and replace the batteries. And if I left it like this, then you've just got these big ugly seams in the top of the helmet. So what I've done is I've already taken out some of the stuff in the front of the helmet, which is normally the padding to help keep the visor on your face. And I've taken out some of the bits which I've now put back in, just to sort of show you. That's the wire cover that leads down to the microphone. That leads up to behind there is where the battery pack would normally sit, but here is the battery pack. I've been able to take it out. This takes 3 AA batteries, and there's actually a hole in the side here so I can feed the wires through, and I can figure out a way to get it to sit in the top of the helmet, because once I've got padding in, that won't be sitting on my head, and then I can access the batteries whenever I need it. So that's also the reason why this bit's kind of wobbling about at the moment, because I haven't properly secured it back in place. I've just quickly put it back together to show you what this looks like when it's all complete. So a quick run through of what we're gonna do. We're gonna reinforce all these seams, make sure everything's stuck together really nicely, and then we're gonna have to fill in everything with some filler, sand it down nice and smooth so it's ready for paint. I'm gonna cover up some of these buttons so they look a little bit more integrated, but do it in a way that it still looks like it is part of the helmet. I've got to wait for some plastic to turn up for that first. And we're not gonna use this, because as you can see, it already has a lot of horrible background static when you try to talk, because you've got to hold it down to get it to work. So we're not going to use that button. See, there's seams on the side here that all connects together. We've got to fill that in, and there's little like air gaps around the side that we've got to fill in as well. Obviously we've got to make the visor smaller so it matches a screen version. I'm going to put in some gauze behind the teeth here and add a proper neck seal around the bottom so the shape actually matches what it looks like on screen. Over here, going to hopefully add a rangefinder that I won't motorize. I'll just keep it as doing it manually, so I can push it down, it stays down, and if I push it up, it stays up. Then we're going to give it a paint job to make it look like a red ARC trooper. Okay, so because the battery pack is no longer in this,
We're taking heavy fire.
quiet, in this top bit here, it means it's not holding down the back of this fin. There's a little lip here to hold it in, so this fin is loose. So now what we're going to have to do is just super glue that in place so it won't move when we start adding the filler. I'm thinking for like all these really thin seams, I'm going to use Milliput, because I have a load left for when I did the TK helmet build. And for the bigger seams, I'm going to use some of this, which is car body filler. There you go, that's in. Nice and solidly now, so that won't move when we're adding the filler, because filler itself will not be strong enough to hold it in place. If you do that, the filler's going to crack. Now I was trying to get the lens out of the front, but it turns out the way this is built, I can't get it out, and if I do, I'm going to probably end up breaking the front bit of this helmet, which I really don't want to do because it's just going to create a lot of extra work for myself. So adding in like gauze to the back of the teeth here is going to be a little bit difficult because I've got to go through holes, these small holes in the back, but I reckon I can do it. So here's the seams mostly filled in. There's a few little grooves to work out still, especially on this side. You can still see some little indents that have to be filled. A little bit more is needed on that ridge on the back to even it out, but that's starting to look quite nice at the top. This milliput is because I used it to get really in the small cracks. I had to wet it down, so it's still not dry, so I can't sand that down at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to knock up a little bit more filler, fill in these tiny gaps, and then I'm going to leave it to dry overnight and then come back to it later. So that's most of the sanding done now, smoothing everything out. I got to fill in these little bits, which are little plastic covers for screws that are hiding underneath. So I'm going to fill in those bits as well and smooth those out. But I've now got some plastic which has come through the post. Just this stuff here. It's really flexible and it's also glossy and shiny, so not that it really matters, but it would have matched this helmet pretty well. But it's going to get painted anyway, so we've got to paint over the filler. So I'm going to get some tracing paper, trace out the shape of what I got on the visor on the tracing paper, and then draw on that bit of paper how small I want to make the visor, and then transfer that to the plastic, and there's probably going to be a couple of layers of that stuck to the front. added a little bit more filler to certain places, but gonna wait for it all to dry properly before I go over it again. And that's probably about it for the filler for now, because once I spray it with the primer, I'll be able to see a lot more clearly if there's any places that really do need to be filled up. But for the most part, it's really nicely evened out, and it looks so much better with that thinner visor on there. So whilst the rest of the milliput and stuff is drying, I'm going to start working on this earpiece here to attach a rangefinder. Now on the toy, this little bit here comes off, and in other versions of the Clone Trooper voice change helmet, you can have a rangefinder that attaches to this bit and it comes down, but it's really big and bulky. And I don't want the rangefinder to come out the side here, I want it to sit in the top. It's more streamlined with the helmet, it looks a lot nicer. So I'm going to figure out the best way to attach it. And talking with some people, trying to figure out how to do it so it stays in position. And they said about, you know, using the magnets, which are the rare earth magnets, which I used for holding together pieces of the kit build that I was doing. So I can actually use these, because these ones are quite small, inside the helmet, so the pull will be enough that it doesn't bend the rangefinder to the helmet, but enough that it'll hold it in a position at the top and at the bottom, and maybe one in the middle as well, depending. So I'm gonna quickly probably cut out a little bit out of plastic and see how tall I want to make it, and then figure out the width and start very gently cutting away at the top of this ear. So I'm going to take you through what I've done with the helmet so far. It's still quite dusty. But so now you can see we've got the visor in place nicely and all filled in. Got the cover for the buttons, so I can still reach them, but it blends it in a lot more, and then we don't have this button at the bottom either. And I will add a little bit of something to stick over these buttons as well, just to make them look a little bit more unique. At the bottom of the helmet here, we've added an extra little bit of plastic. This is the extra sort of neck seal that the clone trooper helmets have. It doesn't stick out as much as the other clone ones, but from the front, it looks pretty cool. And we filled in these gaps around the back here as well. Now, the main thing that has been done is this part of the helmet has been cut out to allow for a rangefinder to fit in. So the rangefinder, if you do get the toy rangefinder with these helmets, they come out quite a big bulky section that sticks out here, and the rangefinder is massive. But for this ARC Trooper, looking at all the pictures online, the rangefinder comes out actually of the top of the ear bit here, and it's nice and small, and it looks a lot better when it's sort of seamless with the helmet. You've got to be really careful when cutting this out, I discovered, because this part of the helmet here, this trim, actually continues through all the way to the inside, so you can't just cut out this little bit of the ear. You've got to grind away at the inside of the helmet. So there is actually a hole going all the way through to the inside of the helmet here, and it's really awkward to try and carve everything out really nice and smooth. So what I've done is I've added some more milliput in here, because milliput, you can smooth it down when it's wet. You don't need to sand it, which is really awkward in this sort of gap right here to try and sand it. So it's a lot smoother, and it kind of hides some of the mess in there as well. It just makes it look like it's supposed to be part of the helmet. And I was going to use plastic for the base of the rangefinder, but I found I had a bit of wood that was nearly the perfect size, so I cut down some part of it at the back. And you can see here there's a little bit of something hiding under there, and that's where I put the indentation in for the rare earth magnet, which I was using to help build the TK UK armour. And I asked around on the Outlanders, see if anyone had any ideas of how to keep the rangefinder down when it's in the down position and up when it's in the up position without it sort of flopping around, which you don't want it to do. And they said use magnets, so we got a magnet hidden in here, which is nice and covered, and on the inside of the helmet. So when it's up, it'll stay in the upright position. When it's down, it'll stay in the downright position, and I can move it manually with ease. So this was the longest screw I could find. So it does have quite a big head on it, so you will notice it when it is in the side of the helmet, so if I just put it in like that. But hopefully when it's all painted, you won't really be able to notice it, and I've got to be able to get back into it so I can take it out, because if I'm going to Comic Con with this when I've got a full set of armour, I'm not going to want to keep the rangefinder on just in case it snaps and gets damaged, so I'm going to want to take it out. Just screwed through the little cap, and the back of the wood on the rangefinder has been cut at an angle just so it doesn't hit on the rest of the plastic that I couldn't quite reach to cut out with the Dremel. So if I just put this in, put that bit in, and it actually goes through all the way to the inside of the helmet, so I am going to have to trim this screw down a little bit. And it's not going to be perfectly centered to the ear, which might bother some people, but this is the only place I could get it to fit well enough, which was quite frustrating, but just going to have to live with it. And it's in most of the way, so if I just put it in the upright position, I can now... Oh, see, there's the magnets trying to attach to there already. Come on, off you get. I can screw it in. So I think I'll put a little bit too much milliput to sort of even this out, because it doesn't quite line up. So I'll sand that bit down a little bit. But it still just about catches the magnet. It just needs to go back a little bit further. But I can demonstrate the magnet's hold when it's down, because it can feel the magnet that's inside the helmet. So if I turn this upside down, it's not gonna move back. So it's still the little crude end part of the rangefinder. So if you can imagine it on like that, that'll look pretty nice. Okay, so I gave it a layer of the plastic primer, and then I saw all the little bits that I still need to do, so those are all filled in now, and I've just gone over the whole helmet with a bit of wet and dry just to make sure it's all nice and smooth, because the plastic primer comes out quite gritty because it's quite thick, because it helps to fill in the little bits of the plastic. So what I'm going to do now is give it another layer of plastic primer, then I'm going to wet and dry that again, and then it'll be ready for its paint job. So we're all primed and sanded. We're giving it a quick wipe down, trying to get rid of some of the dust. So now it is going to be the first stage of the paint, which is putting on the gloss white. So I did a couple of layers of the white on this helmet and left it to dry overnight, so I know it's definitely not tacky when I'm masking it up. So I just got some blue painter's tape because it's not very sticky, so hopefully it won't peel off any of the paint underneath that might not have adhered to the plastic very well. I spent about an hour just going through and just taping up as neatly as possible. Just going over bits like around the edge with a Stanley blade and around the front, trying to get it as even as I can, so the neater you can do it, the less clean up work you've got to do afterwards, so it's always best to do it, and I'm going for a nice bright brilliant red over the top. Okay, so the battery pack is now up on the little side bit here. I've just got a little rectangular foam around the outside with some elastic over the top, which that just slots in, and that keeps it in place. Also means I can take it out to change the batteries, and it helps to pad out some of the helmet. And I've just added some foam on the front, back and the sides so it sits fairly comfortably on my head. So this currently is the neatest I've been able to get this visor on at the moment. It's a bit coming off there. I'm gonna peel it off and I will start again, but I'm probably gonna end up going through all the reflective material that I've got to try and get that absolutely perfect. But it gives you guys an idea of how cool clone helmet looks with a reflective visor. It's just really, really difficult to do it all in one piece and try and minimize creases and air bubbles. I've gone at it with the heat gun, that seemed to have helped a little bit, but still there's all these little bits here that I've got to work out. But it'll take me a little while off camera. But it's done. Apart from the tiny little bits, it is done. And look at that. She is beautiful. So yeah, there's a couple of little details. Just a few little scuffs here and there, and a bit where, you know, the paint's bled. Try to cover it up without making it seem too obvious. That thing is damn smooth. And finished off the rangefinder with a little bit of foam at the bottom here to keep it as light as possible, because the magnets are struggling a little bit to get through the helmet to the rangefinder here. And I've added a tiny dab of hot glue there, which is dried, to give it a little bit more friction when it stays up, so it doesn't move down. So there you... Oh my god, this helmet is so pretty, even my poster of Director Krennic has fainted.
Get ready to get those clankers into scrap metal. Cover me! All units, fire at will! The droid army is in full retreat. Roger that, sir. I've got a bad feeling about this, sir.
So thank you very much for watching this little build video of my Hasbro Clone Trooper conversion, turning the Hasbro voice changer helmet into a more screen realistic version of the red ARC Trooper based off Captain Fordo from the Clone Wars cartoon. That's a mouthful to say, but I am really pleased with how this turned out. This is actually a clone helmet that I've wanted for quite a while now, and I'm really pleased to say that, you know, I made this thing. So I know some of my friends have been looking to convert these helmets but didn't know quite where to start, so hopefully this will help them out, and it will help any of you guys out who are thinking of doing the same or wanted to get a cheap clone helmet. If you've got the basic skills to be able to convert it, it's cheaper than buying a big resin kit. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, may the Force be with you.
Sir, we're taking heavy fire.
Not now.